Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Break the Cycle with me, your host, Joshua Smith. Hope everyone's having a wonderful Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? God, I lose track of the days all the time. I know I'm always trying to say, like, I hope you guys are having a good whatever day of the week it is, and I always have to think about it. That's sad. That's really sad. But anyways, we got a great show for you guys tonight. I'm super stoked, but let's start off with some sponsors. Of course, we have toplobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend and partner on Break the Cycle, where you can get all kinds of wonderful hand-drawn graphic design tees, hoodies, hats. I think he's got like coffee mugs, backpacks, all kinds of cool shit there. Hundreds of designs. All of your favorite shows are pretty much on toplobster.com too. He does a lot of really cool work for a bunch of shows, including mine. So you can get all the Break the Cycle stuff there too. You can use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount, or you can join the Patreon, subscribe star, or become a member of the YouTube channel under any of my videos by hitting the join link. And get into a private Discord server where you can get up to 30% off of all new gear up to 2 weeks before it goes out to the general public. Really good stuff. Really worth it, man. I'm telling you. Check them out. Top Lops is the man. If you watched the show last night, we're gonna kind of make it a more regular thing, having episodes with just me and Top. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I love that guy to death. Go support him. He's also got a new Patreon out. You can check Top Lobster on Patreon. He's got some really cool gifts for you there, like mobile phone backgrounds, and you can get your own portrait drawn. You get like fat discounts by joining his Patreon and stuff too. So good stuff. And of course, executive producer of the show, anthemplanning.com, for all your emergency and crisis planning needs. Check them out today. See what they can do for your business, home, or personal life. They're doing a wonderful job that the government has historically sucked at, much cheaper and much more efficiently. Seriously, if you have a business, go check them out. Go to anthemplanning.com. Unfortunately, I guess I've been putting it in my YouTube videos as anthemplanning.org. I don't know why I've been doing that. Hopefully you guys just follow it by voice. If not, I'm going through and changing them all in all the YouTube videos. But they're amazing people, wonderful. Go check them out, see what they can do for you. Guys, we've got a great show for you today. I've been a fan of this guy for a long time, been following him on Twitter. We've had our arguments, but for the most part, he's typically spot on. He's got a new book out called Anti-Politics, and he is, as some would call him, the meme thief, but I think he makes some memes too. He is Mr. Sal The Agorist. Sir, how are you doing tonight?
What's up, buddy? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, dude. I'm stoked to have you, man. It's funny because you're not actually Mac Dre.
I know people are always disappointed when they don't see like a black dude with a big afro. That's like the opposite of an afro, actually.
Yeah, it's the anti-afro, and it's funny because
Yes.
I'm a big Mac Dre fan. I grew up in the Bay Area, of course. We all
No shit.
Yeah, anybody who listens to hip hop,
a man of class.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I'm a big fan of the Vallejo and the hyphy movement and shit. Like, I mean, it was a big part of my early to mid 20s at least, and
nice.
Yeah, so every time I see that picture, I'm like, God, he's not really Mac Dre. I got to remember that.
Most people have no idea who he is.
Oh, of course not. Of course,
which
not.
is a shame,
Yeah, you got to know Mac Dre, man.
That's rap forever.
Yeah, if you're from the Bay Area and you're a hip hop fan of any type, you know who Mac Dre is. But outside of that, yeah, it gets a little wishy washy.
I mean, I'm from New York and I know who he is, so
yeah, and
nobody has any excuses.
Hey, I love New York hip hop too, man. I just had R.A. the Rugged Man on the show. That was sick, dude. That was so much fun.
Holy shit, you had him on the show?
Yeah, I just did a show with him on I want to say it was last Monday. So
I gotta check that out. He's the man.
Yeah, he's great, dude. He lives in Germany, so I had to like record it earlier. I couldn't do it live like we typically do. But
he's in Germany?
Yeah, he like lives in Germany with his wife and his kids and shit.
He's growing more libertarian by the day. I've noticed that because I follow him on like Facebook.
Oh yeah, dude, he's totally anarchist, bro. Like he's hates the government, and he got a lot of his inspiration for politics came from his dad going to Vietnam, and, like getting sick from Agent Orange and shit. So he very distrusting of the government, and
I don't blame him.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. But let's talk about you, dude. What's your story? How did you become an agorist, man? What was the journey that got you to the ideas of conking?
I don't know. It's a long road, really. I mean, I guess I started out. I've always been like a sort of small government, constitutional conservative type of dude, and then I realized when Ron Paul was running that the rest of these people on the debate stage. I remember watching one of the debates and thinking, all these people are lunatics. The only one making any sense is the guy who I'm supposed to think is crazy. So let me look into this guy a little bit. And that's where I found some of the people on his staff, like Walter Block and Peter Schiff and Tom Woods. And I started like YouTubing and Googling these guys. And that was sort of my journey down the rabbit hole. And then I went to Pork Fest in like 2015, 2014. And everybody there was actually using these principles rather than just talking about them. They were actually using them in practice. People were trading goods and services for silver coins and cryptocurrencies, and they were that, this is where I learned how to 3D print guns, and there was all sorts of stuff going on there. And I was like, that's it, I'm sold. That's when I realized that the answer wasn't just theory, it was actually action. And I started to dive into Konkin, and here I am. Eventually I developed the following on social media, and I thought, well, I might as well promote the version of libertarianism that I agree with. So that's how Sal the Agorist came to be.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm also a big fan of agorism. And for people that are watching this that don't know, it's basically counter economics. It's opting out of the system. It's trying to do everything circumventing authority in the federal government. I mean, that's essentially the basis of agorism, and it's great. I mean, I would do a lot more of it if I thought I could get away with it. Trust me, I would. It gets a little hard when you got 7 kids, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. One of the things I tell people is that, risk is sort of, relative to the individual. Someone who's, 17 years old and, has no responsibilities can take on a hell of a lot more risk than someone who's like 40 with like a big family and like they got a house and a mortgage and stuff. So, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been looking into it. I had Dan Bierman, the taxationist theft guy, on my show, and he was giving pointers on how to evade taxes. And I was like, I've been looking into that because I'm like, hey, the less taxes I can pay, the better,
I try to tell people minimize your taxes, because if you say evade, then they'll actually come get you.
Right.
So I tell people minimize your tax burden.
Yeah. Well, and I have by having 8 dependents. So.
Yeah, there you go. That's one way to do it. That's one way to do it.
If you're gonna do it, go hard, man. Go all the way. But
yeah.
So you got
a low time preference.
Yeah. No shit. I got no time for nothing. So yeah. you got a new book out, man. You put out a book, Anti-Politics. Can you tell us a little bit about that, man? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. So this is sort of my response to the Mises Caucus, I guess. When they decided to write that, when they blocked me on Twitter, and I thought to myself, I have to reach these kids somehow or another. So I wrote the book, or I just assembled it, really. I didn't write it. Some of these essays are mine, but it's just a collection of essays from left anarchist, agorist thinkers, just people in general. They're not even all libertarian necessarily. And it's all making the case against political action, but it's also making the case for anti-political action. It's divided into 4 sections, the book. So the first section is to give people an idea of what anti-politics is. The second section is to give people an idea of what anti-politics is not. And then the other 2 sections are anti-politics in theory and then anti-politics in practice. And I think the 4th section is really my favorite, because that is where we're actually going through examples of when counter-economics has been successful in practice, which is something that I don't think any other faction of the movement could have written, right? I don't think that they only agorism can come up with a list of successful examples of when your theory has been put into practice. No other anarchist theory or libertarian theory has ever successfully been put into practice before. So that's probably the part that I'm most proud of. But the book's done well. I've gotten a pretty good reception from it. I don't know if it's converted anybody, but I hope it has.
Sure. So that's always the goal, right? I mean, and so
yeah.
So obviously, when we first decided to do the show, the reason why was we were kind of going a little bit back and forth on Twitter about the Mises Caucus. Obviously, I was one of the original members of the Mises Caucus. I was one of the people that helped put them on the map. I traveled around to 40 states and spoke in front of hundreds or thousands and thousands of people. I got the keynote behind Ron Paul at a ballroom in Omaha, Nebraska. Nice. And then last year, Ron Paul endorsed me for chair of the National Libertarian Party, which was, I mean, like a dream come true for me. So I really did a lot for the Mises Caucus. I may not be super politically active today because I got burnt out on the shit. Obviously, I talk a lot on the show about getting pretty black-pilled. I still want to use any means possible to roll back the state, but sometimes I feel like politics is it's a hard sell, it's a hard go of things. So I see both sides of the argument. But I mean, what is it your main gripe? Obviously, they blocked you on Facebook, or on Twitter, which I think was not a great move. I know the people that run the Twitter; they're great people, they're good people, and I was a little upset about it. I'm always upset when they block people that I like. But what was the big gripe there? What was happening, man?
You mean why do they block me, or what my beef is with political approach?
What was the motivation? What was the beef? I don't know why they blocked you. I haven't really talked to them about it much, but
well, I think they blocked me because I said something. I said I said the Mises Caucus is a circle jerk where real libertarians go to dunk on fake libertarians, and that was the end of that. That was when they blocked me. But my personal, I think it's not even just my beliefs. It's, I think, the argument that most agorists or anti-political people have made. There's really two arguments that they've made, and this has been identified by like Rothbard and Roderick Long. So this isn't my stuff, but number one, I think it's immoral, right? No one has the right to impose a master on their neighbor, and it doesn't matter how benevolent you think or hope that master will be. It's a master nonetheless, and that's why it's immoral. And the second argument, which I think is weaker, because if you can make a moral case against something, it doesn't really matter if it's good at doing something else or not, right? But in this case, it doesn't matter because it's not pragmatic either. It's never worked. The best any libertarian candidate ever did was Gary Johnson, and that was against two of the most unpopular candidates in history, and he got 3% of the vote. So I don't think that it's likely to get anything accomplished. And I think it's immoral. And then, of course, the rebuttal that I always get from people is, well, we're not actually trying to affect political change. This is actually an educational thing. We're just trying to educate people on the principles of libertarianism, right? Like Ron Paul did. And I think that that's nonsense for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it's sort of just masquerading the Libertarian Party as an educational institution, which is just wrong because they're running people for office. They're dedicating time, energy, and resources to their campaigns, man hours. They're celebrating even the smallest electoral victory. So I think it's just a lie, frankly, that they're not trying to get elected. That's just not true. But more to the point here, and I think this is something I cover in chapter 13, I think it is, Rothbard has a good piece on dismantling the case for educationalism. So Rothbard actually goes through why the LP cannot be an educational institution. And he does that by pointing out how other smaller parties have fared in that endeavor. And I think the example he uses is the Socialist Party. And he says something to the effect, I'm just paraphrasing here, but the Socialist Party has ran people for president and vice president for decades or centuries, whatever it is. And what effect has that had on the electorate? And he says nothing. And the reason why, according to Rothbard, is because it's such a small, minor party that the media portrays them out successfully to be like kooks and lunatics, and the ideology goes down the drain with it. And one of the things I think Rothbard points out that's so prescient is that these political parties, these institutions, they collect just enough revenue to keep themselves going. Right? It's all about like maintaining the party. It becomes more about the bureaucracy than it does about the ideology. And I'm not in the in crowd with the Mises Caucus or anything like that by far. So I don't know how far down the road they are, but I'd imagine that will become an issue sooner rather than later. So that's just sort of a long-winded.
Well, and I could tell you, 100% with the LP, the actual Libertarian Party, that has been the case for decades. I mean, that's absolutely the case.
Yeah.
They're running on $1.7 million a year as a national political party, and it's all about how can they keep the lights on, how can they fix the AC at the headquarters. I mean, it is
right
constantly.
Exactly. And my whole point is, imagine if we took that 1.7 mil and we put it towards teaching people how to become their own bank, how to decrease reliance on fiat currency, or we took $1.5 million and taught people how to print their own guns, right? If we take $1.5 million to teach people in Australia how to print guns, maybe the news would be a little bit less draconian today. True. That's my point. There's one of the things people say to me is, why not both? And my answer is like, well, what about our current state of affairs suggests that we have the luxury of expending resources on ends that have proven to be unproductive, right? Shouldn't we be focusing our energies where they're most most effective. And I think, in my opinion, that's counter economics.
Sure. Yeah, and like I said, I agree with the principles of counter economics. I actually had this debate with Larkin Rose, like a two and a half hour.
Oh man,
was it 2 hours or 2.5 hour debate during Anarchapulco that where they did some of the stuff online, and so
he's a lot smarter than I am. So if he can't convince you, then I probably can't.
He's
either.
A very, very smart guy, man, and I'm a fan of both of you guys, and to 95% extent of what both of you guys are saying, I agree. You know what I mean? Like I do. I 100%, not 100%, but like 95%. I agree that we should be doing these things. Now, for me personally, the reason why I got involved in politics initially was Ron Paul. Obviously, I worked on Ron Paul's campaign in 2008. Prior to that, I was just a run-of-the-mill neocon who joined the military and went and saw war and realized that shit wasn't for me, and that the two old parties didn't give a shit about ending the wars, and that we had no good business being over there. So I'm always an anti-war activist first. That's kind of always been my thing. And Ron Paul resonated with me, and he woke me up. I mean, he really did. He woke me up to the dangers of central planning. He woke me up to the Federal Reserve, especially the militarism and the empire. I mean, he really, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have found Rothbard. I wouldn't have found F.A. Hayek and then Rothbard and Milton Friedman and then, Konkin and all these great philosophers who really shaped my worldview into what it is now. And so for me, he did use his vehicle as an educational tool, and I think it worked for a lot of us. Now, can the Libertarian Party ever be something as miraculous as Ron Paul? It's yet to be seen, but it's also been ran by absolute hacks and losers for, fucking at least the last 20 years almost. I think the most radical candidate they've had in well over a decade was Michael Badnarik in 2004. And he was so radical that the guy wouldn't get a driver's license. You know what I mean? He had someone driving him around all of his campaign stops. And it was a little harder. It's hard to run a presidential candidate like that. You know what I mean? Because they can paint you, as you said, as a kook, as a crazy person. This sovereign citizen won't even get a driver's license. How's he going to run the country? And it is hard. But I do, to some extent, see something like the Mises Caucus trying to take the Libertarian Party and make it an educational outlet, or more along the lines of like a think tank, like the Mises Institute, right? So. And I had this conversation with Tom Woods. I was on Tom's show, and when I was first running for chair, and Tom said, here's the deal. If the Libertarian, and this stuck with me forever, I've said it on the show several times, but if the Libertarian Party is going to carry that name, Libertarian, right? And we know that the vast majority of this country, when they hear the word Libertarian, they don't think about the Mises Institute. They don't think about Fee. They don't think about Konkin and Rothbard and Mises and F.A. Hayek and Milton Friedman. They don't even think about Cato, for crying out loud. They think about the Libertarian Party. And so if we're going to have, people thinking that the Libertarian Party is what libertarianism stands for, then we damn well better have some people running it that exude libertarian philosophy at the very least. We've had people like Nicholas Sarwark running the party for over half a decade, who, by all measures is a blue-pilled woke progressive. And so we have these people out here thinking that that's what libertarianism is. Nick Sarwark libertarianism is libertarianism, when in actuality he's a Democrat that doesn't want to join the Democratic Party, right? So, I mean, do you see any benefit whatsoever because the party's not going to go away, right? It's unfortunate. It's not going to go away. If we could abolish it and then just all collectively fight the state together, I know that's a bad word, collective. I'm not a big fan of it, but if we could all fight the state, in other ways together, then so be it. I like Tho Bishop's ideas. I think he's great, even though he wants to, get into the Republican Party and take over and change that. And I think there's other ways. There's other tools in the toolbox, right? But do you see any benefit to, if the party's going to exist, at the very least, having it run by people who do exude libertarian philosophy and shout it from the rooftops to the people who are watching?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. But I think that the fact that it hasn't been is proof that it's difficult to make politics work. But to your original point, though, about Ron Paul, I think it's important to understand that Ron Paul created libertarians. He didn't create liberty, right? There's a big difference there. And I think that that's a completely noble cause, creating libertarians. That's, definitely a good use of people's time. I'm more concerned with creating liberty. I think that we're at the point now where I'm not really interested if my neighbor understands property rights. I just want to make sure that my property is respected. Also, Per Byland has spoken about the savior complex, this idea that we have to, it's sort of this contradictory belief that individualists have, that they have to sort of save the collective whole of society or something like that. So I reject that on those grounds. I think he makes a lot of sense there, and that's also in the book. But I think, to your last point, you brought up Tho Bishop and the paleo approach. I actually think that there's a better argument to be made for the paleo approach because of Ron Paul, right? Because Ron Paul actually did create libertarians at the very least.
Sure.
Whereas the Libertarian Party, I'd argue, hasn't even really done that ever. So, I think the paleos still have the moral claim that they have to overcome. The real problem here is this. I don't think that you're ever going to get one person. There will never be any presidential candidate of any party who represents or can represent hundreds of millions of people, right? It's absurd to think that that could possibly be the case. Gary Johnson was like a bake the cake kind of guy. That's not my version of libertarianism. So he doesn't represent me in that regard. And I don't think he represents a lot of other libertarians in that regard. Dave Smith doesn't believe in open borders. That doesn't represent a lot of libertarian beliefs. So I think it's difficult to find one person that can represent all of these people. And that's one of the inherent difficulties with the political approach. Whereas in agorism, you do you, right? So,
Right.
if your thing is like Bitcoin or something, then you can concentrate on that. Or if if it's guns, then you can concentrate on that. So it's very tailored to the individual, whereas politics is much more about the collective whole.
Sure. Yeah, no, and I don't disagree with you. I think it's, obviously to me, I think there's a principled claim to being able to vote in self-defense, right? I do kind of subscribe to the Spooner theory about voting, and as long as I'm not voting to impose more measures on people and reduce the state in my life, then I feel like I'm doing it in self-defense, and I'm using just another tool in the toolbox, right? And I think after my debate with Larkin, they started calling me Joshua Toolbox Smith because I talk about the toolbox all the time. But it's true. I mean, there's more than just politics to change your community, especially your community. And that was one of the things that drew me to the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus, was the fact that they wanted to focus locally if they were going to focus on politics, and they've only supported local candidates, local initiatives like coalition-based initiatives like the Decrim Denver thing that they did in Denver, Colorado, and they were a big push for that. They started working on gun legislation in Texas. They were working on pushing the Defend the Guards stuff. So I mean, they have noble causes, and they're also doing things that I agree with when it comes to politics. Now, I know that the Libertarian Party has to run a presidential candidate to keep ballot access, right? We're talking about the bureaucracy that you talked about in the beginning. Without a presidential candidate, the Libertarian Party loses ballot access in like 30-something states, right? And so when people are like, oh, why do you guys even need to run a Libertarian presidential candidate? That's your answer. I mean, without them, there would be no ballot access. Then you can't even have an L on the ballot. Then you just go right back to only having the Republicans and Democrats. But I mean, so let's talk a little bit about agorism. So, and I said it right that time. I always say agorism, and people are like, it's agorism.
Potato.
Yeah, it's Mises. Everybody gets that wrong.
Yeah, right.
I mean, what are some of your, what are some of your goals? I mean, what do you want to see people start doing to roll back this, I mean, frankly, out of control, insane state apparatus that we're dealing with now?
I think the most important thing they could do is to become their own bank and to use cryptocurrency rather than fiat currency, because the way I see it, like the sort of the beating heart of the state is the Federal Reserve. So if we can deny these parasites the ability to manipulate the printing press and inflate the currency at will, then all of a sudden, I think that the welfare warfare state and a lot of the domestic surveillance / police state, it all becomes unaffordable at that point. So, the only way to do that is to become your own bank. And this is a pretty good example of our conversation that we just had, because Ron Paul had that great bill to art the Fed. What was it, like HR 24 or 1124, something like that? I forget, but it died in the Senate. It died in the Senate after Goldman Sachs made a bunch of donations to like all the Democrats.
Shocking.
So, yeah, so I mean, it's like the whole game is sort of rigged, and I think that you have to sort of take the initiative at this point, and that's why I tell people to don't just buy cryptocurrency. Use it. Use it as your primary medium of exchange, because that's how we win. Other than that, I tell people to print your own guns and to become your own bank, because if you print your own guns, it doesn't matter when they come to confiscate them, which is a matter of time, in my opinion. You don't want to die during gun confiscation, so let them take your guns, and then you can just print 10 more before they leave your neighborhood. And you want to grow your own food, because one of the state's tricks historically has been to starve out disruptive populations. They also manipulate the food supply, and I think that becoming less dependent on them any way you can is a good thing. So those are my 3 tips. I tell people: be your own bank, print your own guns, and grow your own food.
Yeah, I don't think people understand. I think that that's something that actually, and no one's ever talked about it on my show, that the food supply is so important, because every despotic nation in this country has always starved out the people that didn't want to follow their rule. Always.
Yeah, and we even saw with the whole scamdemic where they shut down grocery stores in New Mexico.
Right.
And it's like I would get these like libertarians and NCAP types who would DM me like, "Oh, what do you think, you're gonna fight the government by growing potatoes and stuff like that?" It's like, well, if you're in New Mexico, then it certainly has come in handy at that point. But there's a lot of reasons why growing your own food is a great idea. You want to disintermediate agricultural regulations, and it also denies the state tax revenue, which is huge. But Carl Hess has a great book on this, Community Technology, where he successfully set up this large scale aquaponics food growing system in a very urban sort of neighborhood. So if he can make it work in Washington D.C.,
Sure,
then any of us can make it work anywhere.
You might be the first person that's brought up Carl Hess on my show. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's a nice little notch on my belt to have.
Yeah, I don't think people he slept on a lot. Carl Hess, man, he did a lot. He did a lot.
That's why I really tried to draw him out in this book. I think there's 2 or 3 selections from Carl Hess in there, and that's not a mistake.
Yeah,
because you're right, he doesn't get enough play.
Not at all, man. And he's great. We talk about a lot of great anarchist thinkers and libertarians, and he's just one of the ones that doesn't get mentioned enough. He was really great, and by all means, I mean he was pretty left. I mean,
oh, for sure, for sure. Rothbard and Walter, actually, I had Walter Block on my show, who told me that he's like, yeah, me and Murray we're not very big fans of Carl, because he was a little bit to the left of us.
Sure. Which
you can totally sense. When you read Community Technology, you totally get the idea. He's a little bit, it's about as far left as I'll go as Carl Hess.
Well, and it's funny because prior to the right wing populism movement that Murray was a big part of, Murray was trying to reach the left, and one of those people that he worked with was Carl Hess. I mean, that's...
Oh, for sure. Well, what was the name of the book he wrote in the 60s? Never a Dull Moment, which was that's a left anarchist text right there, and that's Rothbard. So, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, he really did.
He was trying to unite the left and the right, and that was his sort of strategy. And then, like you said, towards the end of his life, I think under the influence of Hop, he sort of moved towards a more populist approach.
Sure. Well, and it's funny because Hoppe came from the left too, big time from the left, dude. He was further left than Murray ever was prior to that. Block
too. A lot of these guys. Walter Block was a communist.
Oh, do I don't know if you've heard me talk about it on the show, but I interviewed Walter Block several years ago for a channel I did when I was part of Think Liberty, and he told me a story about how he actually ran track and went to college with with Bernard Sanders, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah,
and they went to this luncheon because there was some famous economist or person coming to talk, and it was actually Ayn Rand, and he went up to Ayn Rand to try and debate Ayn Rand at this luncheon, and some guy's like, no. Wait 1 second here. Take this book, go read this book, then come back and have this conversation with Ayn. And he gave him I think it was Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson, or maybe it was something prior to that. I don't remember what it was. I guess it was a long time ago. But he told me the story that's one of the ways he became who he is today and why he's not a communist anymore. But he said he was a straight up pinko commie is what he says.
I mean, and if anybody who's from New York, you just take a stroll through Brooklyn, man. There's no shortage of communist Brooklyn Jews.
Oh yeah, 100%. And they're all waiting to move to Florida, man. I know how it goes.
Which is ironic because they were all just rounded up by the NYPD for the last 6 months.
Dude,
so
that shit was crazy. I couldn't remember. I could not believe De Blasio came out and literally said we're going to round up the Jews. Like literally said this on social media.
Well, they did. And they did it, and they were knocking down synagogues, and they love him too, which is why I had to escape.
Yeah, did you get out? You got the hell out of New York?
Oh, I'm in Florida now. Yeah, I got out.
Smart, dude. Smart.
Yeah,
smart. Like all smart New Yorkers.
Anymore.
You got to hang out with Top Lobster. He's moving down there soon too.
No shit. Yeah. Once I saw like the tanks on the street and stuff like that, that was enough for me. And then you can't even like go to like bars and restaurants anymore because they just ruined everything. So
yeah, I'm an expat from California, man. So I get it. I left 5 minutes before they instituted the 24-hour lockdowns in California back in March of last year, dude.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I hopped on a plane. I lived right outside of San Francisco, dude. And it was getting bad fast. I mean, I came home.
That's ground zero.
Oh yeah, I like flew home from one of my conventions that I was at. I think it was Illinois or something. And they were like, "Oh, they're talking about closing down all the bars and restaurants tonight." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
See ya.
Yeah, I'm out of here, dude. They're gonna close. What's the whole point of being in California is the bars. I'm out of here, dude. And so I hopped on a plane. My flight left SFO at 11:55 p.m. To come to Iowa, and at midnight they instituted the 24-hour lockdown. That's like how soon it was coming, and I think they were the first state to do it. And then I flew to Iowa. I was only going to stay here for 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and then I was going to go back home. And here I am, almost 2 years later. I never left, dude.
Smart, man. Yeah. Smart.
It's great.
Where are you at now?
I'm in Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you can,
you're in the middle.
Yeah. If you can brave the cold, dude, it's a great place. It's cheap. It's like way cheaper than Florida, but there's no beaches here, and the winter sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's brutal, dude. Brutal. Like negative 30 with the wind chill.
Oof.
Yeah.
No, I can't. I don't think I could do it. No, that's why I'm not a free state guy. I don't think I could do it.
It's brutal, dude. Like I can't. It's coming again. Like it starts. The winter here starts like the beginning of October.
Dude, my beach season is just beginning. I'm waiting for the tourists to go home so that I can like get to the beach.
No shit, dude. That's great. What part of Florida did you go to? South
I'm
Florida?
in St. Pete.
Oh,
I'm in St. Pete.
Nice. Hell yeah. That's
beautiful.
Great, man. Yeah, I thought about it. I threw around the idea, and I'll still retire in Florida. There's no doubt about that, man. That's where I want to be. But for now, we're pretty safe-ish in Iowa, at least. They've been pretty good here. They never really shut anything down. They did do like carry out food only for a while, for like a couple weeks, and then they stopped that. And they've never really had a mask mandate here, and it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't follow those rules when I was back up north anyway, but
Sure.
It's definitely nice to know that I don't have to be chased around, or like I would get like the police called on me at the grocery store and stuff like that. So at least I don't have to deal with any of that bullshit anymore. Yeah.
So I mean, as a agorist, I mean, what do you think? I mean, obviously mass noncompliance. I'm a big supporter of mass noncompliance. I've been pushing it. I put out video about it. I try to get everybody I can to not comply, even my own kids at school here when they brought the mask back to school. I mean, what can we do, man, as people who are not involved in politics? What should we be doing?
You mean like in regards to COVID?
Yeah, I mean, this mass tyranny and delusional bullshit that everyone's dealing with.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is to, like you said, non-compliance, but do it in a way that like you're like in an entrepreneurial way. So there was a bar in New York that it was like sort of like it's like a speakeasy almost that like really never shut down. And you could go there throughout the whole scamdemic. They were open, and they were always packed. And I can't imagine that any of that, the bar owner's competitors who were aware of this weren't like jealous and didn't have that same thought in their head that, hey, maybe I should open up too. So whatever they're restricting, I would try to offer it in a way that sort of gets around the regulations. And it doesn't even have to be a coronavirus nowadays. There's so much that they're rolling out every day. There's more rules and regulations that there's like an abundance of counter-economic opportunities at this point. One of the things I was just talking about the other day is that, I don't know if you saw, they're trying to, they have this like $600 reporting requirement for any cash transaction or something like that.
I saw that. What the fuck is that?
I'm waiting to see like how the final version of it is written into the legislation, just so I can figure out how we're going to get around it more easily. But one thing, like I tell people, is that, the purpose of Bitcoin is to facilitate peer-to-peer transactions between two people who aren't face-to-face without the need for a third-party intermediary like a bank or Visa or PayPal or something like that. So really, it's as simple as figuring out what transactions over $600 people don't want a record of, and then just offer that good or service in exchange for cryptocurrency. And the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is firearms.
Sure.
So, if let's say that they say, oh, and all individuals have to report any expense over $600. Now, all of a sudden, you open up a gun store that, you accept cryptocurrency, and it becomes much more difficult for the government to catch these people if they don't report it. Now, if it goes the other way and they make the business owner report everything, then it's a different story. So, like I said, I'm sort of waiting to see how they roll that out. But that's just one example of how you can use like the collapse to your benefit. But I really believe in just, like you said originally, non-compliance. Just don't listen to them. Just, I've never worn the muzzle. I obviously am not I'm not going to let them shoot me up or anything like that. Don't close your business down. Again, it's all risk though, like you don't want to rack up $10,000 fines every day. Try to do it in a more like underhanded fashion. Try to, be the gray man and blend into the background.
Sure. Yeah, I got really lucky that my company put out an email. They obviously have more than 100 employees nationwide, and they put out an email that said, hey, this new advisory mandate or whatever they called it came out from Biden, and we're just going to wait a while to see what happens. And I was like, thank God, because a lot of these other companies that work in the same industry as I do, like Microsoft and Facebook and shit like that have these big data centers, they immediately mandated them. Immediately.
Right. Well, that's one of the ways that Agorism addresses this, and this is like unique if you think about the different strategies to approach the state, from like the LP, the Paleo approach, and the Agorist approach. The Agorist approach is unique in the sense that we tell people to become entrepreneurs, and if you work for yourself, then there's no one to impose a vaccine mandate on you. Whereas I think like there's nothing that the LP could do right now to stop this. There's nothing that the RNC could do to stop it, right? So, I think the only faction of the libertarian movement that does have a viable strategy to fight these COVID restrictions would be the Agorists.
Sure. I think it's I think some of the non-compliance we're seeing recently has been really beautiful. 5,000 nurses and doctors so far fired in New York today.
Yeah, I know, which really draws into question how severe the scamdemic actually is.
Yeah, I mean, if there's really a bad pandemic, are you going to fire the people that just worked through the pandemic for 18 months without a vaccine to save people's lives, and now you're going to fire them because they won't get a vaccine? Like what? For a vaccine that's going to give you what, like a 0.001 better chance of surviving? Like.
Right, exactly. I know that's the whole thing, and that's how you know it's a scam too. But the dictator who replaced Emperor Cuomo, she actually fired all of the healthcare workers and then replaced them with troops. So now you actually have like troops in hospitals and stuff like that.
Is that shocking at all? Because it's going to be a lot easier to deploy a mandatory vaccine when you have soldiers doing it.
Of course, exactly. That's the whole point. And we were all called conspiracy theorists 4 or 5 years ago for saying that this day would come, but now it's here. Also, North Carolina, they just fired a whole bunch of nurses.
Yeah, I saw that.
the Massachusetts State Police has like a big problem because none of the police want to take the shot. So I don't know. I think it's really getting interesting, and I'm sort of enjoying the whole collapse of the state.
Oh, it's
I guess
beautiful.
as like an outside observer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like really, really beautiful to watch in real time the people that are opting to tell them to go fuck themselves. I mean, that's really what's happening. And I was very, very skeptical that this would happen. Right, I knew the state would do all this shit. I knew the state would push this shit when all the dumb like blue-pilled wannabe libertarian progressives were talking about it's a private business, bro. They can mandate it if they want, right, bro. Just please trust me, bro. I was like, listen, it's not going to be the businesses mandating it. It's going to be the state telling the businesses that they have to mandate it. You know what I mean? Like, I always knew that was going to happen for months and months and months. But now to see people telling the state that they're not going to comply, it really is beautiful, man.
Yeah, and I'm like I said, I'm really enjoying it. I think Pete Quinones was really on the money on that one because he sort of took the ball on that. A lot of people were like, oh, it's just I think like Stephen Kinsella was like, oh, it's just they can do whatever they want or something like that. But in my mind, I think the point that, I don't know, I guess Pete was trying to make is that when you're referring to the corporate wing of a fascist regime, the whole private business argument doesn't fly anymore. Right. At that point, they sort of become merged with the state. So it's not a private business at that point. The airlines aren't private. The banks aren't private. Pharmaceutical industry isn't private. We have very few private industries left in this country.
Well, it's so funny to me, all these people are like, listen, the media told me this, the media told me that. You realize that Big Pharma literally gives billions of dollars to the media companies every year. Like, not billion, but they've given billions of dollars over years.
Oh well, and not to mention the CIA's manipulation of the media,
right?
And the FBI. But then you're a conspiracy theorist if you point out the earmarks in the Defense Department's budget for like media relations and stuff like that, or how they try to like create memes and stuff like that, and how all their memes are shit. But people don't like
terrible memes.
Yeah, you're like a conspiracy theorist just for bringing that stuff up, though.
Level Zero, thanks for the $5 super chat, man. He says, how quickly do you see the economic collapse coming? The accelerationists don't have to do anything. The government is handling things themselves. How I mean, honest to God, like, so I was on Clint Liberty Lockdown's podcast. I want to say it was almost a year ago, probably last winter sometime. He had me on. I didn't really know much about him. He didn't know about me, but he asked me a question. How soon do you think the violence is going to start? And I said, it's coming, dude. I mean, it's gonna be quick, and we're already seeing it in Australia. These people are showing a penchant for fist fighting the cops. Like, I'll trade everyone in California for these people right now.
Exactly.
But I mean, honestly, the economic collapse, we all know it's coming. They just put out a thing. Who was it? The New York Times or one of the big corporate medias. Yeah, they put it out today that the government is going to run out of money by the end of September. These are the simps for the state. I mean, are saying this shit.
I know. Well, the New York Slimes has been apologizing for these lunatics for a long, long time now. Sure. But yeah, I mean, that's just hilarious that they're going to actually run out of money. They're just going to print a whole bunch more, right?
Of course. That's what they do, right? They'll keep printing it, and then they have the left so fucking brainwashed that they're like, no, they can just print it away. It's like, that's literally not how the economic theory works. Like, economic policy works. Like, they can't. Someone's gonna have to pay for it.
That's how we got into this mess in the first place. And that's just to answer that question. Like, that sort of goes back to the whole thing of like business cycle theory. Like, economics tells us what's going to happen, but it doesn't tell us when those things are going to happen. Otherwise, we would all be super wealthy investors, right? But we do know that's going to happen. So you might be a good idea to park your money in non-inflationary assets like cryptocurrency and precious metals and real estate and stuff like that. That's where I think, or at least residential real estate, that's where I think the smart money's at. That's where I think, you don't, it's almost like musical chairs. You don't know when the music is going to stop, but you better have a chair when it does.
Yeah, no shit. So you bring up precious metals a little bit. There's always seems to be this argument in especially in like liberty circles, precious metals versus crypto, right? Like, I'm a big fan of both. I think you should hoard as much of both as you possibly can. But I mean, what do you think is more important at this point? Especially when we know they can turn the internet off on us at any time.
Libertarians will debate absolutely anything,
Yeah.
which is a good thing, I guess. You know what I mean? And not only do they debate, like, is it gold or is it precious metals versus cryptocurrency, but it's like you can even niche down further, like which crypto or which precious metal. And like, to my mind, it's just like have a diverse portfolio of both. I personally, I like cryptocurrency better because it's not confiscable like gold is. Like, we've seen what the state will do to gold because they've done it. They've, made it illegal and stuff like that. Whereas cryptocurrency, it's much more difficult for them to do something like that.
Right.
But I personally, I have both. I think everybody should have both. I think the real argument for having precious metal at this point is the volatility of crypto makes it impractical as a tool for savings. It's a great investment, but I don't think it's a good savings tool right now. It's too volatile. It's like the swings up and down are too heavy. So rather than the key to becoming your own bank, part of what a bank does is it offers you a savings account. So replace that savings account with gold and silver or platinum or palladium or rhodium, whatever. And then if you, of course, need a checking account, and for that, I suggest you use cryptocurrency. And that's the way I break it down.
Sure. And I don't disagree with you. I'm a big crypto stan as well, especially Bitcoin. I think, for a long time I played all the altcoins. I really did for a long time, and I talked about them a lot, and so, I made some money off them here and there, and but I always got wrecked every time I tried to play any of the altcoins. I got wrecked every time, dude.
I did all right. I did pretty well on the altcoin boom back in the day.
Yeah, I did okay. Like, I followed TRX and XVG up and then pulled out and made some money there, but I mean, ever since then, I just always got wrecked. And so, Bitcoin just steadily keeps going up, man. Like, it takes its fall back and then it goes back up again. So
I have my concerns with Bitcoin that the maximalists don't really appreciate.
Sure. They don't appreciate you even mentioning anything other than Bitcoin.
No, I know. Oh my God, they hate it.
Yeah.
But, my whole thing is like, I'm sort of agnostic in the sense that I don't really care which commodity outcompetes the Federal Reserve as long as something does. Like, if we all started using salt tomorrow, I'd be happy. If we woke up and, Ron Paul coin was the global standard, I would be a Ron Paul coin maximalist. I don't care what does it, as long as something does it. Of course, I have my own ideas as to what, commodity has the best chance of doing that, but so do we all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talk about, they did a write-up about me in Bitcoin.com a couple years ago when I was trying to bring crypto into the political world. Basically, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to merge the crypto community and the Libertarian Party, obviously, but just politics in general, and getting more. It's funny because there's so many young, like, rich people now that are rich off Bitcoin and other various crypto coins, but most of those people, a large portion of them, are not just. They're not just there to get rich. Obviously, they're gonna be wealthy, but they're there because they believe that
exactly
that crypto is going to become the standard for store value. I mean, really.
Well, so a few things. So, like, yeah, you're absolutely right. It was the ideologues who first realized this, and I sort of got lucky in all this because, going back to how we started the show, like, I found Ron Paul, and then I was immediately like, well, who are this guy's advisors? And I looked up Peter Schiff and Walter Block.
Oh yeah.
And, ironically, Peter Schiff taught me, inflation and stuff like that. So that's why I actually got into Bitcoin back in the day. But, like, I'm not necessarily sold on the whole store of value narrative, but, that's a whole nother. We can get into that if you want, but that's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother.
We'll do another show, Sal. No problem.
Conversation,
man. And we could talk about it in the members only chat too. We got about 10 more minutes here or so, but that's hilarious, Peter Schiff. So I'm a big Peter Schiff fan as well. But man, it really burns me up when he talks shit about Bitcoin, dude.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Dude, and I'm not a fan of Saifuddin Ammous either. But if you watch his debate with Saifuddin, he says like value is objective, it's not subjective. And I think he's stumbling over some key points there that I think, like, he might have, like, forgotten or got lost or got clouded because he's stuck in the investment world. Sure. And that's why I sort of, like, I try to stick to, like, the the professors, like the Walter Blocks and the Per Bylans, and like that's where I go for my economic knowledge at this point.
Yeah, I had Per Bylan on the show, man. He is amazing.
Brilliant. Smartest guy in the movement at this point right now.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. He is another one that I think is slept on way too much. Like, people need to go follow Per on everything.
Everything, yeah. He's got a great article out on Entrepreneur Magazine. He is one of the most OG agorists in the game. I've got like 2 or 3 of his essays in here that I published at full length. It's the only ones I published at full length that are in there because he's just that brilliant.
And he's got a new book coming out soon too. I can't wait for that.
Right. His I think like he's going to be one of the thinkers that in hundreds of years I look back on, and like he's going to be one of the defining thinkers of this time. I think a lot of his ideas will come to be accepted like later on.
Sure. Well, especially, I mean, his talks and ideas about the entrepreneurial spirit is just unmatched, in my opinion.
For sure, absolutely. And also like his stuff on counter economics, the way he like breaks it down is just brilliant.
Very easy to understand
all sorts
for people
of stuff.
too.
Yeah. He's got all sorts of, and also like you said, the entrepreneurship stuff is just, it's all brilliant stuff.
Yeah, I think his new book is coming out as like a primer. I think it's some kind of primer book for like anarcho-capitalism or something. He said he was going to break it down as easily as possible for people to understand. And I was like,
and he's actually speaking here in St. Pete at the Mises Institute events, like at the end of October, something like that. He's giving a speech. I think he told me it's like about agorism. So that's going to be really, really cool. Yeah.
I wonder if I keep wondering if he's going to be at Tom Woods' 2000th episode, which is in a couple weeks, and in Orlando. So, and I'll be there. I'm excited.
Oh, that's coming up quick too. Hey man, I'll buy you a drink there.
Oh yeah, if you're gonna be there, I'm stoked for all the people I know are gonna be there. Top Lobster, I mean, there's gonna be. I've never met Top Lobster, and he's like my partner on the show, so it's gonna be awesome. I'm very excited. I'll actually be there for Disney World. I'm taking the kids to Disney World.
Nice.
Yeah, so we'll be there. I think from the 11th through the 18th. But I figured since it's the 16th, I get some tickets. It's at 8 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? I can just take off from the hotel and go over there, and then go back. So.
I don't think I think you have to be muzzled to get in there. I'm not sure. I don't know.
So that's the hotel that we had the Libertarian Party National Convention at last year at the height of the pandemic in July, and they wanted you to have the mask, but as soon as you walk through the door, they didn't care anymore. So
no, I meant like Disneyland.
Oh, Disney World, yeah, they're requiring masks. So
Disney World.
I bought all these mesh masks for us, like completely breathable and see-through, and we're just gonna wear those, and they only require them indoors right now, thankfully, so we don't have to like walk around outside with them on, which is, at this point it's like I don't wear the mask. I think I put the mask on probably 5 times over the last almost 2 years, and I've had COVID, and so, I'll put it on occasionally, but only if it's for something that I really want to do and can't do without the mask. You know what I mean? And so this is one of those things where it's like these kids, we adopted 2 of these kids and they've never done anything. And so it's their first chance to really get to go do something
well worth
amazing.
The sacrifice.
Yeah, I'll put the fucking mask on for a couple days if I have to for these kids. Yeah. That's pretty much one of the only things that has gotten me to put it on is the kids or my job.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing that I would put it on for as well. Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, it's just crazy, man. Dirty Remnant, thanks for the $5 super chat, man. He said, how much of a pandemic is it when you can fire qualified medical personnel? LMFAO. It's a scam. Right. Yeah, that's what I've been saying that shit, man. You wouldn't, in a real pandemic, you wouldn't be firing healthcare workers, I promise you.
And honestly, it's like we can go back before that, like when CNN started replaying, those CCP propaganda videos of people just like dropping dead and collapsing in the street, like, dude, at that point, I knew it was all bullshit.
Yeah, it's like that never happened. That never happened here.
Never happened.
There.
It's like everybody forgot about it. They don't want to talk about it. Nobody brings it up. It's like, what happened to those people that were dropping dead? Where are they right now?
Yeah, it's not happening in the United States. And I don't know if you saw this today, just this week, Norway declared COVID no worse than the flu or colds and removed all their mandates and everything. And the same day, CDC updates the website to say that Norway is a very dangerous country to travel to right now because their COVID's out of control. I'm like, what a bunch of salty bitches, dude.
Unreal. Well, if the CDC says it's not safe to do something, then it's safe to do that thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's at this point. I am almost completely contrarian to anything anybody in authority tells me.
Yeah,
I'll listen to Thomas
that was like the
Massey.
whole
That's it.
I knew that R. Kelly didn't piss on those chicks when the government said otherwise, right? That's how you knew that he's innocent, is because like a government court said he's guilty.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know. I don't know the story behind R. Kelly, and I'm not going to make a statement on that here.
I don't know anything about the story, but I would be willing to bet if the government says he did it, then he didn't do it.
You just never know with those guys. I know that if you really dive in, I just did a big deep dive into the Bill Cosby thing. Because I wanted to check it out for myself. Because obviously I grew up with the Cosbys. I'm almost 40. It was a big part of my childhood, and it always kind of hurt my heart to think of him being this like crazy, like sex deranged, like criminal psychopath. And I looked into it, and he's exonerated. He's let go because the state literally tried to make a political case out of it. I mean, that's what they did.
Not surprised. The only thing that's surprising about that is that he was actually exonerated. Now, if only somebody would they would pay as much attention to Bill Cosby's case as they do to maybe Ross Ulbricht's case, then maybe we would get a little bit accomplished in the way of justice.
Yes, Ross Ulbricht needs to be pardoned, released, apologized to repeatedly. I did my first episode or my third episode? I did a portion about Ross, and I really don't like. I already knew a lot about the Ross Ulbricht case and Silk Road and stuff like that, but I really dove deep into it. I watched like a full documentary. I read all the court documents. I mean, I did it all just so I could do this 20-minute segment on it. But it's crazy, dude. They railroaded the fuck out of that guy.
Well, he was an Agorist hero, and I think what bothers me the most is that federal judge Catherine B. Forrest, who put a nonviolent first-time offender, gave a nonviolent first-time offender double life plus 40. This woman gets to continue living her life, and now I think she's retired from being a federal judge, aka domestic terrorist, to working at some swanky New York law firm with nothing, no problems. Meanwhile, by the way, for all the listeners out there, you can contact her. Her email and telephone is public information. So just do a quick Google search for Catherine B. Forrest.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely insane, and I hope to have Lynn, his mom, on the show at some point so we can talk more about it. Because I don't think there's ever been. I mean, there's been some really bad political prisoner cases, but I don't think anything. I mean, look, Tim Lambesis, the lead singer of All That Remains, not All That Remains, As I Lay Dying, right? Like very popular, famous metalcore band. He legitimately petitioned a fake hitman to kill his wife, and he got out after 5 years and is now playing in his band and touring again. And and they lied. They trumped up charges about Ross Ulbricht trying to murder for hire somebody. They didn't even charge him with it in court, and he's spending more than his whole life in prison right now.
There are African dictators who've received less time at The Hague. There are serial killers who've received less time than what Ross Ulbricht received. And I think, just to close on a supporting point for agorism, I think that that sort of, to me, that's like an indicator of proof that this is what the state's most concerned about, right? They're most concerned about Ross creating a truly free market. They're concerned about a medium of exchange threatening their monopoly on exchange media. Right. And I think that's a sort of an indicator that we are moving in the right direction. And Jamie L. Schulman, before he died, told me that he was he felt sort of guilty that because Ross used, the Agorist book alongside Night as his sort of model on creating the Silk Road, and he felt guilty about that. But I don't know. I'm at this point, I think the only hope for Ross really is the political route, which is sort of sad. I think
Yeah, it really is sad.
To sort of depend on a presidential pardon, and the people who are running for president are lunatics and psychopaths. So it's unlikely.
Absolutely. I agree, man. Well, Sal, I'm a big fan of yours, dude. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's still crazy to me that you're not Max Ray, and I'll survive it. I'll get over it someday. But
next, I'll grow out the afro next time.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you got coming up, man? You got anything coming up people can follow and check out?
I'm working on some stuff, but nothing that I really want to put out there right now. Just for plugs, 3dprintergoburr.com. You can pay with cryptocurrency to avoid accessing KYC payment platforms. Agorithreads.com, and of course the book is Anti-Politics. That's it, man. I appreciate you having me on. We should do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. You could get Anti-Politics on it's on Amazon, right?
It's on Amazon. I have a handful of copies here that I'm slinging under the table for crypto. So if that's something that you guys are interested, just shoot me a DM or an email or something like that. Sell me with a Proton Mail, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I'll probably, if I'm going to get the book, I'll get it that way. And then maybe I could just get a little hand script from you there.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, thanks a lot, man. If you could just wait in the lobby for like a couple minutes, I'll start the members only stream. We'll get going in there on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Cool.
All right, guys. Hey, man, Sal's really cool. You know, I actually agree with him on a lot more than probably most people think I would. I'm a big fan of Anti-Politics. I really am. As somebody, I know it sounds really hypocritical as somebody who works in politics, but I wish, you know, my wish is for people to opt the fuck out of the system and stop using it and make it illegitimate. I just don't see enough people doing that, and so that's why I use other tools for now. But my goal, my dream would be to just have people mass non-comply. I mean, really, truly, that's what it should be. But yeah, go check out Sal. Check out his new book. Get it on the low with crypto if you can. I'm sure he will appreciate that. Also, check out our sponsors, toplobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend and partner on Break the Cycle, where you can get all kinds of great hand-drawn graphic designs, hats, hoodies, backpacks, t-shirts, socks, all kinds of great stuff. He also has a Patreon now that you can support his work on and get all kinds of cool swag at, including a hand-drawn self-portrait of yourself, all kinds of great discounts on his website, and backgrounds for your phone, and all kinds of great stuff, man. Really, seriously, check him out. Support the man. He is part of the culture war for us. No doubt about it. The guy has branched out and is doing all kinds of great things. He's reaching all kinds of great minds with his art. So support him if you can. It's good work. And, of course, anthemplanning.com, executive producers of the show. Check them out for all of your emergency and crisis planning needs. See what they can do for your business, home, or personal life today. They're doing a wonderful job that the government has historically sucked at, much cheaper and much more efficiently. Seriously, if you own a business, just hit up anthemplanning.com. It doesn't cost you anything to check out the website. I promise. They're great stuff. Coming up on the show tomorrow, the amazing, great Eliza Blue will be on the show to talk about victims and survivors of human trafficking. She's amazing. If you have not checked her out, that's going to be a great show. Thursday, the Conspiracy Couch returns. We might have covered some of the stuff that we're probably going to cover that night, but it's going to be myself, Dave Casey, and Dan Smots, as usual, with our great friend from the Propaganda Report, Monica Perez. Very excited to have her back on the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. And, of course, Mike Harlow from the Walkaway Movement will be here on Friday to talk shit about woke progressives, I'm sure, and New York as well. But he's awesome, man. I really like this kid. He's really, really great speaker, much better than me, and so I'm excited to have him on. Guys, check out the Patreon or the Subscribe Star if you can. Really could use your support. Trying to build up the show. I'm going to start, like I said, doing some man on the street stuff and taking the show on the road and doing some other stuff. So the more support we can get, the better. And of course, you get to support 7 really cool kids too, which is always cool. I am the sole provider for 9 people. It's pretty wild, and I do the show 5 nights a week for you for free mostly. So if you can support it, I appreciate it. If not, I understand. Money's tight for everybody. I will see you guys tomorrow night for the show with Eliza Blue. If you guys want to come and check out the members only stream, please join under any of the YouTube videos now. It'll immediately let you in all the members only stuff. There's like 65 members only streams now. It's pretty good stuff. But I'll see you tomorrow for the show with Eliza Blue. Till then, don't forget to break the cycle. And thanks for all you guys do for the show.
Due to legal reasons, I just have to explain. The lyrics of my last song may seem to contain a violent call to action in the verse and refrain, but I just meant it in Minecraft. The helicopter part was in reference to GTA 5 and the things you do. So any violence you commit, I am not an excuse, because I just meant it in Minecraft. A trooper is my friend and he's constantly cold. Accusations of incitement getting totally old. Make your own choices, yeah, you have control, because I just meant it in Minecraft. Obviously I would never advocate force. Unless there's due process and a trial, of course. And if you're convicted, we will make you a corpse. In Minecraft, just in Minecraft. Nothing I mean, you know it. No product dinners, gets it close to COVID.